Welcome back to the Sport by Fort Pod. This is a production that uses real content from articles, research studies, and projects developed by Sport by Fort Consulting, presented by AI hosts. In this 6th episode of Season 2, we explore the strategic advantages, as well as the potential drawbacks, of recruiting former Olympic athletes for corporate leadership roles. While these individuals often thrive in high-pressure environments, we also examine the steps organizations must take to maximize their chances of success as they transition into new professional careers. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we extract the crucial nuggets of knowledge from a stack of sources, turning complex research into essential insight tailor-made for you. Today, we're focusing on something a little different: unconventional leadership talent. If you've been tracking high-level hiring, especially in, say, management consulting or high-growth startups, you've probably noticed a shift.
Yeah, you really see it.
Organizations are looking beyond the usual MBA track. They're seeking out people who have achieved this sustained, repeatable excellence in one of the most demanding environments imaginable.
Elite sport.
Exactly. Specifically, the Olympic Games. We're looking at this growing trend of hiring former Olympic athletes for senior management and leadership roles. The core question really isn't just, can they learn the business? It's more, what unique, non-teachable skills do they bring that, offset their lack of traditional experience?
So our mission today is to quickly unpack the specific advantages and, just as importantly, the crucial limitations of this strategy. We want to give you a shortcut to understanding why this transition from the podium to the boardroom is proving so effective, but also pretty complicated.
Okay, let's unpack this.
It's so important to see that this isn't a fringe idea anymore. It's becoming a strategic mainstream approach to talent acquisition.
Right. It's not just a celebrity hire.
Not at all. The sources confirm employers are looking for a guaranteed operational mindset. Just reaching the Olympic Games demands this extraordinary multi-year commitment. The discipline, the laser focus, the ability to process and act on complex data. These aren't just skills on a resume.
They're lived behaviors.
Lived behaviors, exactly. Reinforced daily for a decade or more. And that behavioral evidence is precisely what makes them so appealing to organizations that want to build a high-performance culture.
Okay, let's start right there with the mechanics of their careers, because that structured discipline seems to be the first really concrete advantage. Olympic athletes are master goal setters and, critically, master executors.
Absolutely. Their entire professional life is built around these highly structured, multi-year planning cycles.
So when we talk about a 4-year Olympic cycle, what does that actually look like?
Well, think of it as a strategic planning document, but with just unparalleled rigor. It's not some vague aspiration.
Yeah.
It's a detailed, quarterly, sometimes weekly performance blueprint. They're constantly adjusting tactics based on competitive intel. They're budgeting their physical and mental energy. And they live by performance benchmarks and this ethos of continuous marginal improvement.
And if you connect that to corporate strategy, the alignment is it's immediate.
Yeah.
You mentioned strategic planning, that ability to look 3-4 years out, set clear milestones, and then adjust based on, unexpected results. That is the very essence of effective project management. They come in already hardwired to think that way.
What's also fascinating is how they view failure within that framework.
Yeah.
In the business world, we manage a project setback.
Right.
For an athlete, a setback can be catastrophic, yet they have to start iterating immediately. They understand that a multi-year plan requires course correction, not panic.
And this is where the conversation gets a bit deeper, moving into crisis management. Every company talks about resilience. It's a huge buzzword.
Oh, absolutely.
But for these athletes, resilience isn't a concept. It's a primal survival skill, honed under just existential pressure.
It truly is. Think about the specific pressures they handle, pressures that just dwarf most corporate issues.
Like what?
A career-ending injury, losing your primary funding after one-week performance, intense public scrutiny when you miss a goal on the world stage.
Or facing down a competitor, knowing 4 years of your life comes down to the next 30 seconds.
Yeah, exactly. So what does that mean in a management context for you, the listener?
It sounds like you're hiring managers who have already normalized operating under extreme duress.
That's it. They tend to stay composed when the stock price takes a hit or when a regulatory change throws the whole supply chain into chaos. They've already internalized that harsh truth, that massive effort doesn't guarantee success, but that dwelling on failure is just a waste of resources. They're less likely to panic.
Okay, so let's move from the individual to the group dynamic. I think we need to challenge this idea that all Olympic sports are purely individual pursuits.
That's a great point.
Because even the most solitary competitor, they rely on a complex support ecosystem. And this is critical for people management.
We have this image of the athlete alone on the podium, but their success really hinges on operating within a highly complex, often political structure.
Yeah.
We're talking coaches, medical staff, nutritionists, analysts.
And the national federations.
And critically, the federations, yes.
So for someone who maybe isn't familiar with global sport, how does navigating a national federation compare to, say, navigating a major corporation?
Well, a national sports federation is, for all intents and purposes, a bureaucracy. It's a political body managing budgets, government stakeholders, sponsor egos, public opinion.
All competing for resources.
All competing. Athletes learn from day one how to operate in that environment. They learn to respect the roles of others, to get buy-in for their ideas, and to lead by example without any formal authority.
And that experience navigating those complex hierarchies, that translates directly into managing people in a big matrixed organization.
It's invaluable. Which leads to that secondary benefit, the cultural signaling.
Right. If you hire a CEO from a rival company, that sends one message. But if you hire a senior VP who has a gold medal, what does that immediately say to every single employee?
It's an instant, powerful message. These hires embody values like excellence, accountability, and continuous improvement, just by their behavior, like their habit of rigorously reviewing performance data. They can raise the bar for entire teams.
Just by showing up with those expectations.
Exactly. And because they've spent years optimizing human performance, they're naturally good at talent development and change management. They excel at building high-performance cultures.
It's a very compelling picture. In fact, it almost sounds too good to be true, like the perfect solution to any leadership problem.
And that's where we have to introduce the friction.
Because this strategy relies on a kind of survivorship bias, right? For every success story, there must be countless others who fail to make that transition.
That is the necessary caveat. This raises an important question. Are we being seduced by the narrative of the champion and ignoring the very real obstacles they face?
Because despite all these strengths, hiring former Olympians is not a turnkey solution.
Not at all. And organizations have to go into this with their eyes wide open.
So let's talk about the elephant in the room, the technical and industry gap. Athletic excellence doesn't automatically give you technical expertise.
Precisely. The commitment that wins a marathon doesn't teach you gap accounting standards or how to manage a cloud migration.
It's a totally different skill set.
We're asking people who have specialized in human kinetic performance for 20 years to suddenly step into roles needing deep financial literacy or knowledge of complex regulatory frameworks. Without a serious, sustained investment in their education and mentorship, they're going to flounder. You can't just put them in the deep end of the compliance department and expect them to swim.
I think the risk of over-romanticizing their mindset also plays a huge role. That win-at-all-costs mentality that's required for elite sport, that can be very anti-corporate.
That's a critical behavioral adaptation they have to make. The athlete's world is a zero-sum game. Someone wins gold, everyone else fails that primary goal.
But business isn't like that.
Not at all. Business thrives on collaboration, consensus, and long-term stakeholder management. If a leader struggles to pivot from that immediate competitive mindset to one based on patient compromise, they risk disrupting the very culture they were hired to build.
And that must be so hard when you've been trained your entire life to see anything less than first place as a failure.
Exactly. And then there's the huge psychological challenge, what we can call the identity transition.
They're moving from a world that is so clearly defined. You have a stopwatch, a clear metric, a measurable goal,
Right.
into these ambiguous corporate structures where feedback is slow, it's subjective, and it's all about consensus.
The shift is profound. In their old life, success was quantifiable and immediate. In the boardroom, goals are things like strategic influence or team morale, things that don't give you clear feedback right away.
So that loss of clarity can really impact their confidence.
Severely. The identity shift from champion to junior executive can be brutal.
Yeah.
Organizations have to provide psychological support and a lot of patience to bridge that gap.
Which brings us to the most important question for our listeners. How do you actually do this successfully? It sounds like the responsibility is almost entirely on the employer.
Absolutely. The organizations that get this right treat the hiring as an investment in raw potential and mindset, not as hiring a plug-and-play expert.
Yeah.
They have some clear best practices.
Okay, what's the first one?
First, they hire for the mindset, for that proven commitment and potential. They understand that they're acquiring a human who has successfully mastered an extremely difficult multi-year process. That mastery is the asset.
And once you've got that mindset, the next step has to be education, right? To close that technical gap we talked about.
Yes, and the investment has to be significant. The success stories almost always involve heavy investment. We're talking about full executive programs, supporting part-time MBAs, or dedicated internal mentorship.
So it's not a few weekend seminars.
Not at all. It's a year or two of deep learning to give them the industry language and technical literacy they need.
And finally, placement. Strategic placement is key. You can't just put them anywhere.
No, you have to place them where their proven strengths, leadership, communication, comfort with high stakes, matter most.
So that means explicitly avoiding those purely technical or deeply regulatory positions, at least at first.
Exactly. Focus on roles that require motivational leadership, a team turnaround, or high-stakes negotiation. You need them leading people and driving culture, not crunching spreadsheets.
That makes perfect sense. So looking at everything we've discussed, the overall value proposition is clear. Former Olympic athletes are not some universal solution, but their entire career is proof of what sustained, optimized execution looks like under peak pressure. And in a business world that's all about volatility and competition, that specific blend of mental fortitude and execution discipline is a rare and profoundly valuable asset.
That's the exact takeaway. The podium might be behind them, but for many of them, the next victory comes not with a medal, but with a highly motivated team, a successful strategy, and an organization performing at its best.
So what does this all mean for you? If an athlete's success hinges on meticulously adapting and executing a rigorous multi-year plan in a pressure cooker, what level of long-term commitment and planning might you need in your own professional role to get that same kind of repeatable, high-level performance? And if these leaders signal cultural values through their behavior, what clear, high-bar cultural signals are you sending in your own work environment? So what does this all mean? Thank you for joining us for the deep dive. We'll see you next time.